Hello, everybody, and I hope you're all well. It's the Social Club webinar. We're here today with just below me is Tony Hunter. Tony is the chief executive, or at least was till yesterday, of the Social Care Institute of Excellence. Tomorrow, sorry. So tomorrow, sorry, I'm all over the place. Sorry. Tomorrow it's the chief executive of the Social Care Institute of Excellence. Its purpose in life is basically to help and support with absolutely sort of solid information, research, and advice the social care sector to be effective. Tony's been extremely involved in the COVID response, both at local and national level, and is basically. And as well as that, as his current job, he's also served as a director of adults and children's services and a local authority chief exec before that. So he's extremely, and a social worker back in the day as well. So Tony is probably one of the most authoritative people we could ever hope to find to talk about the crisis and the social care context within it. So we've got somebody very good here. What I was going to ask Tony to do is to basically kick us off with a very short talk, and it's going to have two parts. Tony's going to be talking for a little while about the operational dimensions of the crisis as it pertains to social care, and then also some of the strategic and long-term ramifications of the crisis for social care as well. So it'll be a talk of two halves or two sides, the near-term issues and the longer-term issues. We're going to keep it to about 15 minutes, and then we're going to open it up. The protocol with this is that if you could send your question via chat, that gives me an idea of what your question is, and I'll come back to you to either ask the question or I'll intermediate the question depending on how much time we've got. But if you can put your questions on chat, and when I come to you, if I do come to you, if you can ask your question as quickly and as pithily as possible, that saves on time and it keeps a bit of pace in the conversation as well. So we've got a good group now, Tony, with us. We've got people from we've also got some colleagues from EY here as well who are doing a lot of leadership in central government on this. So we've got a really good mixed group from up and down the country. A lot of people in ops jobs, a lot of chief execs, a lot of people who are right at the front of this right now. So Tony Hunter, welcome, and over to you.
Okay, thanks very much for that big build-up, Craig. I can only go down from there, can't I, really? Mm-hmm. It's good to see you or talk to you or listen to you all. I want to stress that, there are no single answers to this. There are no blueprints. I think everybody's learning to some extent as they go. So I'm certainly hoping to get quite a bit from today as well. So I'm certainly looking for discussion rather than Q&A. It's not going to be a game of tennis in any sense, really. And if you see me looking away from the camera, it's not because I'm losing interest or doing my emails. It will be because I'm going to be taking notes here and there as well. I think the first thing is I enjoyed doing that. That evening. I think was it in Leeds or in Manchester, Craig?
Social Club North. Yeah, you spoke in Social Club North
so
a year and a half ago.
Some of the names I do recognise a little bit as well, so maybe there's some people there back for more, which I should see as positive, I guess, really, yeah. Okay, of course I won't pick up non-verbals terribly well as you do round a table, so if I'm going off on unhelpful tangents or whatever, just kind of let me know either now or during, during my opening remarks and during the discussion. Right, okay, so I think as you say, Craig, in a sense it's two halves. I'm going to jumble them up a bit, really. When we were meeting a year and a half ago, we were saying, well, look, what is the direction for social care? Now, I think the direction for social care isn't changing. The issue is, how can the current crisis help and hinder that movement to a more person-centred, community-centred, more enabling, flexible local authority and partners approach, which places much more power and control in the hands of people who need care and support, as opposed to traditional service mentalities. And I think, as I probably said then, I think we're going to look back in horror in the way that ever since World War II, really, we've become a more professionalised, service-orientated, leave it to the professionals culture, give us your money and we'll sort everything out for you. As a result of which, you know, somebody who's been concerned about the person at the end of the road rings social services, says, look, I'm worried about Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so, what are you going to do? And then social services end up taking that elderly or disabled person out of their environment to perhaps a day centre 4 or 5 miles away in a rickety bus, and then bring them back 4 or 5 hours later, thinking that somehow that's the job done. Now, 30 years ago, we were kind of proud of that. So I think we always need the humility of thinking, what is it now that we're going to look back in horror over in perhaps 10 years' time? And how has the crisis helped or hindered that movement, really? So I think I'm really looking forward to a really good discussion on that, Craig, because there are some helps and some hindrances there, really. Right, a quick look at now at what our organisation is doing for the Department of Health and Social Care. We have a whole host of tools and resources and online materials on site which we're updating for, to support the immediacy and the aftermath of what's happening now with adapted materials, webinars and so on and so forth. We're also keeping well in touch with what's happening actually on the ground across the country. And that's why I'm quickly saying there's no single answers to this, really.
This is the Social Care Institute of Excellence, Tony, yeah? The
Social Care Institute of Excellence Improvement Agency, as you said, Craig, very concerned to be that link, if you like, between the Department of Health, Social Care and what's happening on the ground, and supporting the Department of Health and Social Care now, because we're independent and because we've got such a vast array of materials kind of already. But I don't want to go on about that particularly, really. I think what's happening in the good areas is that they're making sure they're absolutely in touch with people who are receiving care and support services, and especially that list of 1.5 million people with particular vulnerabilities, which if it hasn't gone out, it's going to be going out very, very quickly. That's people at highest risk. They are being concerned about how we're supporting those people. How can we maintain community confidence in strapped financial times anyway, that we are using limited resources to absolutely maximum effect? But instead of looking for service solutions now, it's really going to be rapid checks of who you're in touch with, how are neighbours, your relatives helping with isolation, with your basic food needs, and so on. So that already, I think, is a reach towards more community-based type solutions than service-based approaches of the past have helped with. A lot of communication, a lot of information, advice out through a whole range of channels, and so if you like, that's what the good areas are doing. So they're not retrenching; they're trying to keep very open and kind of informative. So that's the client side of it, the service user. The 3 dimensions of this: there's what you're doing with the clients, what you're doing with your own workforce, and how are you using your own time as a management team. So the second dimension, the workforce, how are organisations demonstrating care? Lots of information going out about physical and mental well-being, support for people who are already isolated and themselves vulnerable and worried at home, with or without relatives. Trying to support connections, not least through Zoom or what we use, Microsoft Teams, setting up staff groups of one sort or another, not just on the work stuff, but on tips for the day. How are you keeping so-and-so? What books are you reading? What films are you watching, maybe? So not just the work stuff, trying to generate that sense of identity, which you would have had if you were in the working environment. And I think, speaking in my organisation, and again, I'll be interested in what colleagues are experiencing. We've actually found that whereas a couple of months ago, and Craig, I was talking with you about this, we were talking about cramming into a smaller space, and everybody was worrying, how are we going to hot desk? How are we going to maintain links at home? How are we going to? But in fact, that's happened in 2 weeks flat. Everybody out and at home, and it just shows what can be achieved if you keep confidence and spirit relatively high, really. So I'll be interested in what people's experiences are of that. And then thirdly, so that's looking at your customers, looking at how you're supporting your workforce. And the third dimension is how you use your time, how you maintain the confidence of your staff and of other agencies and so on, that you are utilising your time as a management team on the must-dos, but critically not losing a sense of how we're going to emerge from this. What will we have learned about our operating methods, about how we keep in touch with people and so on. So lots of staff sessions, online kind of, seminars with your staff, getting individual staff talking about what they're doing and so on. So dealing with the urgent and dealing with the important at the same time. So I think I'll actually finish at that point, Craig. I'm looking forward to a good discussion here. We're all going to learn from each other.